Welcome back to Deciphering Zodiac, A Chronicle of Terror, brought to you by History and Crime. This is episode 10, titled Suspects and Dead Ends. In this episode, we delve into the labyrinth of the Zodiac killer investigation, exploring the various suspects over the years and the reasons why they were ruled out. Disclaimer: the following content contains graphic descriptions of criminal activities. Listener discretion is advised. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of myself, Tammy D, the creator. I do not endorse or condone any of the actions or behaviours depicted in the true stories. The purpose of this podcast is to educate and entertain, not to glorify or sensationalise crime. The Zodiac killer case has seen numerous suspects since the first murder in 1968. Over the years, investigators have followed countless leads, interviewed potential suspects, and even made a few arrests. However, none of these suspects were definitively linked to the Zodiac crimes. Each new lead seemed promising, but ultimately they all led to dead ends, adding to the frustration and mystery surrounding the case. Some suspects were ruled out due to lack of evidence. In a case as complex and high profile as the Zodiac killer, every piece of evidence was scrutinised. However, without definitive proof, investigators were forced to rule out these suspects. Others were cleared because their physical characteristics or handwriting did not match those of the Zodiac. The Zodiac's letters provided a unique challenge for investigators as they had to match the handwriting to potential suspects. This was a difficult task as handwriting can be easily disguised. In some cases, suspects had solid alibis for the times of the attacks. These alibis were thoroughly checked and verified, providing these suspects with a clear name. Despite the extensive investigations, all leads eventually led to dead ends. The Zodiac killer seemed to always be one step ahead of the investigators, leaving them with more questions than answers. One of the most notable suspects was Arthur Lee Allen, a Vallejo schoolteacher. Allen became a prime suspect due to several circumstantial pieces of evidence, including a watch bearing the Zodiac symbol and a friend who claimed Allen had talked about wanting to kill people. However, Allen was eventually ruled out as a suspect. His fingerprints did not match those found at the crime scenes. His handwriting did not match the Zodiac's letters, and DNA testing did not link him to the Zodiac crimes. The case against Allen seemed strong, but without definitive proof, investigators were forced to rule him out. But who were some of the other suspects that were ruled out, and why? Over the course of the investigation, many other suspects were considered and ruled out. Some of these suspects were Richard Gajkowski, a journalist and activist who worked for an underground newspaper in San Francisco. Gajkowski became a suspect due to his physical resemblance to the Zodiac, his possible connection to one of the victims, and his alleged involvement in a cult. However, Gajkowski was ruled out due to lack of evidence, conflicting eyewitness accounts, and a possible alibi for one of the attacks. Lawrence Kane, a real estate agent and former naval intelligence officer who lived in the Bay Area. Kane became a suspect due to his possible involvement in the disappearance of a woman who was linked to the Zodiac, his possible connection to another victim, and his possible knowledge of cryptography. However, Kane was ruled out due to lack of evidence, inconclusive handwriting analysis, and a possible alibi for one of the attacks. Ross Sullivan, a library assistant and former college student who lived in Riverside. Sullivan became a suspect due to his possible involvement in the murder of a woman who was linked to the Zodiac, his physical resemblance to the Zodiac, and his possible interest in cryptography. However, Sullivan was ruled out due to lack of evidence, inconclusive handwriting analysis, and a possible alibi for one of the attacks. These are just some of the suspects that were ruled out, but there were many more. Each suspect had some circumstantial evidence or some connection to the Zodiac, but none of them had definitive proof or conclusive links. The Zodiac killer remained a mystery, and the suspects remained innocent until proven guilty. But what impact and influence did the Zodiac's letters have on the investigation, and why did he send them? The Zodiac's letters were a crucial and intriguing part of the investigation, as they provided clues, hints, and challenges for the investigators, and generated publicity and fear among the public. The Zodiac's letters were not just claims of responsibility for the attacks, but also taunts aimed at the police and the public. These cryptic messages and ciphers, often mailed to Bay Area press outlets, including the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times Herald, served to heighten the fear and confusion surrounding the Zodiac killer. The letters provided investigators with a wealth of information, but they also presented many challenges. The letters contained details of the crimes, such as the weapons, the locations, and the dates, to prove the Zodiac's authenticity and challenge the authorities. They also contained cryptograms, which the Zodiac claimed contained his identity, and which were complex puzzles that the Zodiac invited the code breakers to solve. The letters also contained threats, such as the Zodiac's claims of a growing victim count, and his plans to target school children or shoot out the tires of a bus. The letters were a source of clues and hints, but they were also a source of frustration and pressure for the investigators. The letters also generated a frenzy of fear, curiosity, and speculation among the public and the media. The Zodiac became a household name, a notorious figure that captivated and terrified the nation. The newspapers complied with his demands and published his letters and cryptograms, hoping to elicit a response from the killer or a breakthrough from the code breakers. The public also tried to crack the codes, sending in their solutions and theories to the newspapers and the police. Some even claimed to be the Zodiac himself, adding to the confusion and chaos. The letters were a source of fear and terror, but they were also a source of fascination and intrigue for the public and the media. The motives and goals of the Zodiac for sending the letters are still unclear and may never be known for sure. However, some possible explanations are: the Zodiac was seeking attention, fame, or recognition, and wanted to establish himself as a notorious and elusive serial killer. He enjoyed the publicity and the media coverage that his letters and cryptograms generated, and wanted to keep himself in the spotlight. He also wanted to assert his superiority and intelligence over the police and the public, and to show off his skills and knowledge. The Zodiac was playing a twisted game with the police and the public, and wanted to test their abilities and challenge their wits. He enjoyed the thrill and the excitement of the cat and mouse chase, and wanted to see if anyone could match his cunning and audacity. He also wanted to manipulate and control the emotions and actions of his adversaries, and to toy with their hopes and fears. The Zodiac was following a ritual or a compulsion, and wanted to communicate his message and his mission. He believed that he had a special purpose or a destiny, and wanted to share his vision and his beliefs. He also wanted to justify and rationalize his crimes, and to express his grievances and his frustrations. These are just some of the possible motives and goals that have been suggested, but none of them have been conclusively proven or disproven. The Zodiac may have had multiple or changing motives and goals, or he may have had none at all. The truth may never be known unless the Zodiac himself confesses or is caught. The mystery remains unsolved, and the letters remain a haunting legacy of the Zodiac killer. That concludes episode 10 of our series. In the next episode, we will take a deep dive into the Zodiac's complex ciphers, one of which was only recently cracked. We'll explore the efforts of both amateur and professional code breakers who have tried to crack the Zodiac's codes and the impact of these ciphers on the investigation. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the chilling chronicle of the Zodiac killer. Until next time, stay safe, keep the lights on, and continue to join us as we navigate the dark corridors of history and crime. Remember, in the words of George Santayana, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it.